Scheming Sturgeon's obsession with England and the Tories hasn't always been pretty, with the angry Scottish leader not shy of using her venomous tongue over the years. But the latest serving of SNP savagery has taken a more disturbing turn in the form of this bizarre new campaign ad.
The Tory record is a long list of lies, self-interest, cronyism, sleaze, cover-ups and incompetence, which brings us to a very important question. Just how far can we trust the Tories? This is Betty. She's going to help us answer the question. Ah, and here's our Tory. Right, Betty, show us how far we can trust the Tories. Well, there you have it. You can trust a Tory about as far as you can throw them. Thanks, Betty.
A granny throwing a mannequin Tory across the field. I don't know whether to laugh at the SNP's bile-fueled attempt at politics or give them a call to ask if everything's okay. The ad clip was produced ahead of May's local elections, but Scottish Conservatives aren't amused, with leader Douglas Ross saying it was a negative, bitter advert, and MSP Stephen Kerr declaring clearly they are concerned that even their base is deserting them if they have to stoop to such personal and unpleasant politics, even for them. This, of course, comes after a barrage of cringeworthy SNP assaults on the UK government, the Conservative Party and England spanning back years. So as Sturgeon's lot show they really have lost the plot with their latest campaign ad, we're asking if the SNP is stoking hatred against the Tories. Send me your thoughts to dan@gbnews.uk or tweet @gbnews. You can vote in our poll and watch the awful video while you're there, and I'll bring you the results very shortly. But first, going head-to-head on this tonight is Scottish Conservative MSP Graham Simpson, former Glasgow SNP councillor Austin Sheridan, and Spite columnist and senior lecturer at Abertay University, Dr Stuart Waiton. Austin Sheridan, you can't defend this ad, can you? You must be a little bit embarrassed watching that.
Well, I think you got it right in your opening. You said you didn't know whether to laugh at it, or be concerned. I think the key was to laugh at it. It was meant to be a comical take on how far can you throw someone, which is a common Scottish saying. But when it comes to stoking hatred, I mean, when you look at the kind of adverts that the Conservatives have ran over the past years, for example, with Alex Salmond with Ed Miliband in his pocket, playing two nations off against each other, that is something the Tories are used to doing. And that wasn't funny, that wasn't comical. This was comical and it was funny, and that's the way it's meant to be taken.
You're trying to stoke hate against Conservatives, though, aren't you?
No, we're not trying to stoke hate against Conservatives, but what we are clear is we don't agree with Conservative policy. We are clear that the behaviour of the Conservatives has been deplorable, and we are confident about pointing that out, and we make no apologies for it.
Austin, I put it to you that Sturgeon and the SNP are just so embarrassed about their record in government, which, let's be honest, has been completely dire, that you don't want to talk about any of your own achievements.
Not at all. Nothing to be embarrassed about our record. The latest opinion poll shows the SNP way in the lead. The latest opinion
I'm not talking about the polls, Austin. I'm not talking about the polls. I'm talking about your achievements. Because no SNP achievement is mentioned in that advertisement. It's all about stoking hatred and a division against the Tories. And to me, that's a sign of a party in deep, deep trouble.
It's about pointing out where the Conservatives have went wrong, especially over the past couple of years, over the pandemic, how they've taken the UK public for fools, and we make no apology for pointing that out.
The SNP have been in power for years.
And we're leading in the polls, and we're doing very well, and we're proud of
how's
the record.
How's the Scottish health system going? How's the Scottish health system going, Austin Sheridan?
Well, it's going better than the English health system. That's all I can say in relation to that.
There you go again. There you go again. It's all whataboutery.
But what we're talking about, we're talking about the advert, right? And we're talking about the message that it's meant to put across. And the message that it's putting across is that the Tories' behaviour over the past couple of years has been deplorable, and we make no apology
Well,
for
you're
pointing it
talking
out.
about
And then
trust.
the
You're talking about
stuff
not
at
being
the end.
able to trust Tories, Austin. I just wonder if we can trust Nicola Sturgeon. Wasn't there meant to have been a second independence referendum by now?
No, there's not meant to be one by now. The manifesto's 2023. That's next year, Dan.
It's not going to happen, is it, Austin?
Well, as I say, I would hope it would happen, and I would certainly be the first person to hold the SNP accountable to make sure it happens. Make no mistake, Dan, although I'm SNP, I'm always happy to hold my colleagues accountable, and I will be making sure within the SNP I'll be pushing to have that second referendum in 2023.
OK, let me go to the Scottish Conservative MSP, Graham Simpson. Did you get angry or did you laugh when you saw that ad, Graham?
I've got to be honest with you, Dan. I was in stitches when I saw that ad. I thought it was a spoof. I thought it was like something from Monty Python. It was like a throwback ad, and I must apologise to Austin for not wearing a pinstripe suit tonight and not fitting his stereotype of a Conservative. But it was certainly insulting to Conservatives. It was also insulting to grannies, because if you saw at the end, you had an elderly woman sat on top of a hill, a really bizarre scene, doing her knitting and calling her Betty. I still, it was an utterly ridiculous advert. It was meant to be for the local council elections. It mentioned nothing about what the SNP want to do in the local council elections, probably because they've stripped councils of money over the past 15 years. And Austin, as a former local councillor, should know that.
Well, look, I want to bring in Dr. Stuart Wayton here as our neutral broker tonight. Dr. Wayton, what's this ad really about?
I think it's using the cynicism and it's almost anti-politics. It's one of the problems now in Scotland is that the national question almost means that politics is in sort of a suspended animation, because all you need to do is troll out the kind of anti-Tory framework and hold up the Scottish flag, and that is all that politics is. So rather than, I think, as you mentioned, rather than discussing what has the SNP actually done over the last sort of 5-10 years and promoting that, they just do a sort of cheap, cynical kind of anti-politics. So it's about sleaze, it's about greed, it's about this sort of thing. It's not actually about politics as such. And what's fascinating, I think, about the SNP, which is they've done it very successfully, but the SNP essentially, for me, represent the modern elites. Okay, so if the Tories historically, you would say, represented the old establishment, the SNP today represent the modern elites. And in that respect, they're incredibly elitist. And if you look at their policies, whether that's the named person policy, where they said every child needs a state guardian, essentially, suggested a lack of trust for parents. They've introduced the smacking ban, so that the lightest smack now, that on the back of the hand, is now a crime. Again, they seem not to trust parents. They've introduced a hate crime bill, where saying incorrect things in your own home can mean that you're arrested. They appear to think that the Scottish public are bigots and need to be regulated. In fact, you can see that the SNP's own senior legal person, Dorothy Bain, is arguing that we should get rid of jury trials in rape cases. And the reason she believes this is because she thinks that the public are bigoted and sexist and can't be trusted, and they want to get rid of jury trials.
And we saw that over COVID, didn't we?
Keep going through their laws, and almost all of the laws that they've introduced are contemptuous of the Scottish public.
Austin Sheridan, I think the SNP should be trumpeting its achievements ahead of the local elections. I think maybe the problem is they don't have many. But what would you say are Sturgeon's top 3 achievements as First Minister? Because maybe once you've given them, that could be used in the next SNP advertisement.
Making it illegal to assault your child is a massive achievement of the SNP.
OK, that's one. What are the other 2?
Right? Making it illegal to assault your child and bringing in free education for all Scots based on the ability to learn. not on the ability to pay.
Okay, and the third?
Abolishing prescription charges, making our health service absolutely free of charge, and introducing free dental care as well. These are all things that are progressive policies, things that go against the Tory grain. And I'm proud to stand by the SNP's record in government.
Okay. Thank you so much. That was the former Glasgow SNP councillor Austin Sheridan, the Spike columnist and senior lecturer at Abertay University, Dr Stuart Waiton, and Scottish Conservative MSP Graham Simpson. But what do you think? Well, Spencer on Twitter says, if only these people put that much effort into making Scotland a better place for Scottish people. Savala says, Nicola Sturgeon's SNP are no strangers to hatred. Sometimes it's against the English, sometimes the Tories, and sometimes it's against Labour supporters. And from Ryan, really not sure how this stokes hatred. Wouldn't you say the exact same thing about the SNP and Labour? And your verdict is now in. Overwhelming. 90% of you say that SNP ad stokes hatred against the Tories. Just 10% of you say there's nothing wrong with it.